2 weeks ago, we looked at the overall story arc and our key scenes, the inciting incident, plot point 1, the middle, plot point 2, and the climax. Just in an overview. Last week, we talked about the inciting incident. So today, we're going to talk about plot point 1. So plot point 1 is the point of no return for your protagonist. And that's really key, for your protagonist. So if I say it again, it's really important. So, what it means is something has happened in the book and the character can no longer back out. And I'll give you an example. We're going to go through Gone Girl as we do this, and I'll give you the Gone Girl example for that. But it's the moment when the setup for the story has ended and Act 1 is over. And so now we're moving into Act 2.
Okay.
So with plot point 1, the character has to care about the outcome. And if they don't, the reader won't. So the protagonist is in the story or in the scene, and they care desperately about whatever it is that's happening in that scene.
Okay. And so they care. And how do we use this? How do we show this exactly? I mean, how do we define this so that people know? Because some of these terms, again, we're presenting new ones, and we want to make sure that they can easily locate it. Definitions help, but how do I?
Yeah. So to find it in your book, you're going to look between the 20 and 30% mark. And quite often I find writers naturally put it in there, in that range. So we're going to go back to what we said about the inciting incident. You've got your blurb written. Look at your blurb and what's the protagonist's journey and what happens in that journey that they can't turn back from. In the scene, they're obligated to take action. So, I mean, if they don't, the story's over. So they have to. They probably feel a little bit trapped, as in they've got to make a decision and which way to go. It should be a bit of a struggle. It could be, if they don't move forward, it could be they're returning to a life of unhappiness. Their life is in jeopardy. Someone they love is in jeopardy, whatever it happens to be. So it's a meaningful event. So if we look at Gone Girl, if you remember in the inciting incident, Nick comes home and he finds Amy missing and there's blood in the kitchen and,
Right.
Okay. So at that point, he could have walked away. But then what happens, they have this little anniversary event every year where they have a treasure hunt. And so in plot point 1 in this book, Nick finds the treasure hunt clue.
Okay.
So at this moment, he knows Amy's up to something. Up until that moment, he didn't really know. And it's the first hint to the reader, oh, there's something off with Amy. And so Nick has to follow it, right? From the reader's point of view, they think Amy's life is at stake because they still think that she's kidnapped. But internally, Nick knows she's up to something. And if he doesn't get ahead of her in the game, he's probably going to jail. So it's a moment where he doesn't have a choice. The impact to him is really personal, really important, and he has to do something. So that's the type of scene that you're looking for in your plot point 1. And I just want to go back to the positioning of it. If it's too close to the inciting incident, the story is going to feel rushed. And it'll be the type of book, the books you read, you're interested in the story, but you just start skimming for the key things in the paragraph. It will feel like that. If it's too far away, the story's going to drag. And then the story arc droops down because the reader's saying, oh, okay, come on, get to it. It's just too slow. And the brain is wired for receiving these events at the right place in a story. And so you have to be very careful that you don't make the two stretch out too far.
Okay. So we're looking for the exact placement according to these parameters and pitfalls. When we use this, if we do this right or wrong, what do we need to be aware of or avoid?
So same with the inciting incident, the protagonist must be in the scene. The outcome of the scene must impact the protagonist. It's all about the protagonist's story. And, that's the biggest pitfall I see when I'm editing books is that there is a plot point 1, but other characters are in the scene, or it's written from the point of view of another character, which is also a bit of a no-no. So It's not very satisfying because the most impacted person should be the protagonist. And if we don't get to see their internal thinking and feeling and what their struggle is,
Mhm.
not as interesting. It might work and it might be okay, but it's not as good. So why wouldn't you make it as good as you can by it's the point of view of the protagonist?
Exactly. So good, good. Now, how do we, what's our homework for today? Because last time we had to go back with a blurb and make sure that everything was jibing. What are we doing with
Mhm.
plot point one?
So same thing, you're going to use that same blurb
Mm-hmm.
and you're going to go and look through your book. And so if you use fictionary storyteller, it will show you where it thinks the plot point is.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can look in that area. If you don't, look between 20 and 30% and look at your scenes and see if there's something that matches the criteria
Mm-hmm.
of plot point one, and that's your scene. If you can't find it, then go back to your blurb and figure out, well, what scene do you need that is the point of no return for your protagonist, and write that scene and put it in the right space in your book.
Exactly. And this is what your editors are doing. They're going in, they're looking for this, they're matching it up because we're using this checklist we're going through step by step with folks is what we are using behind the scenes. This is not, I mean, it is the secrets of editing, but it's not something that we can't share with you because the more you learn to self-edit, the more that you learn to write a better story, the better your editor can work with you to help you get the strongest story because you may be able to say, okay, this is really the point of no return. And then the editor can say, okay, but if we tweak this a little bit, move this here, then that's where that collaboration comes in. And editing really is about collaboration. It's a teamwork, be it between yourself and software. But when you move on to the person, if you use all of those foundations, then we really get that magic to happen. So again,
Yeah.
go in, check your homework, make sure you're sending us those blurbs with your work. And of course, walk on through. If you don't have the software, we do advise you go check it out. There's a free trial. So nothing to lose there, folks. Thank you for joining us again today, Christina. It was great. And we'll be back next week with plot point two.
Middle. Plot point middle. We come back with the middle and then plot point two. We got to do the middle. That's the hardest part.
Middle. All right. Perfect. We'll see you then. And thanks for joining us. Have a great day, folks.
Bye, Joellen. See you next week.